Hey everyone! In today's video, we're diving into the powerful and inspiring tale of Lillian Carter. She faced a near-fatal moment, encountered Jesus, and was given some eye-opening insights about what's ahead for our planet. Before we jump in, I'd love for you to drop a comment sharing what city you're tuning in from. We're eager to hear. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our thrilling updates. Let's get started. Hey, let me introduce myself. I'm Lillian Carter. You probably won't recognize my name, and that's okay. I'm just a regular person who came across something truly remarkable. For a decade, I managed marketing at a huge tech firm in Denver, Colorado. On the surface, my life seemed quite desirable. I had a rewarding job, a loving family, and a nice home in a quiet neighborhood. Yet, beneath this polished exterior, I was struggling with an overwhelming wave of stress and fatigue. My work took over every aspect of my life. I often found myself sacrificing precious moments with my husband Ethan and our young daughter Chloe, all in pursuit of professional achievements. I was convinced that my efforts would secure a bright future for my family. Little did I realize, I was neglecting the most vital thing, the present moment. My daily routine was a blur. I would wake up while it was still dark out, bury myself in work emails and reports before having breakfast, and usually return home well after Chloe had gone to bed. Ethan always encouraged me to take it easy. He's so calm and level-headed, reminding me that there's more to life than chasing deadlines and hitting targets. But being the stubborn person I am, I just kept going in circles, ignoring the signals my body was sending. Then everything changed in 2008. At 41, I thought I was invincible. I brushed off the sleepless nights and the gnawing exhaustion, thinking it was just a rough patch that would pass. But life has a peculiar way of forcing us to listen when we refuse to hear. One ordinary day, my body hit a breaking point, and I collapsed at home. That incident marked the start of an unforgettable journey, one that blurred the lines between life and death and completely reshaped my understanding of what truly matters. Let me tell you, the story I'm about to share is hard to put into words. It's one of those experiences that just challenges everything we think we know about reality. But it's my truth, an incredible journey beyond this life that offered me a new lens on love, life, and what the future holds for everyone. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind or sell you on some unwavering truth. I just want to tell you what I went through, what it made me feel, and how it turned my world upside down. Maybe, just maybe, my experience can resonate with someone out there or inspire someone to reevaluate what really matters. So if you're open to it, here's my story, a tale that kicked off with a breakdown on a September day in Denver, Colorado, and led me to unimaginable places. It's a narrative filled with themes of life, death, love, and purpose, along with some astonishing insights that sprouted just when I thought it was all over. That day in September 2008 started out like any other. I had just gotten home from work, my mind swirling with all the tasks that were piling up. Ethan had taken Chloe out to the park, leaving me in a rare moment of peace. I thought I might take advantage of the solitude to catch up on some reports. While waiting for my coffee to brew in the kitchen, that's when it hit me. It felt like someone had flicked a switch inside my head. At first, I ignored it. I was used to headaches by then. But this sensation was different. It was as if a heavy pressure was building up, and soon enough, dizziness followed, making the room spin. I reached out to steady myself against the counter, but my vision started to dissolve into a blur. The colors merged, and edges of objects faded away. My heart raced as I tried to call for help, but my voice barely emerged, weaker than a whisper. My legs turned to jelly, unable to hold me up, and I crumpled to the chilly kitchen floor, panic gripping me. Something was seriously wrong, and I could feel it deep within. With trembling hands, I stretched out for my phone on the table. I don't even recall how, but I managed to dial the emergency number. The operator's voice felt distant, like a soothing echo in my chaos. I struggled to communicate what was happening. My tongue felt heavy and clumsy, my thoughts jumbled. All I could manage to say was my address and plead for help. Thankfully, the operator must have sensed the urgency because he assured me that an ambulance was en route. As I lay there on that cold floor, Time stretched endlessly before me. Every tick of the clock felt like an endless stretch. I struggled to keep my breath steady, but it was tougher than I expected. My mind kept drifting to Ethan and Chloe. I felt a sharp pang of fear. What if I never got to hold them again? The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, muffled as if I were underwater. I wanted to shout, to signal for help, but my body was unresponsive. The last thing I remember was the door bursting open and the rush of footsteps belonging to the paramedics. After that, it was like someone hit the off switch on reality. Everything faded to black. There was no more pain, no more fear, only a vast emptiness. Describing what came next is tricky. It's like trying to explain music to someone who has never heard. But I'll give it a shot. The first thing I noticed was this enveloping silence. It was so profound that it felt tangible, like I could touch it. It wasn't just a lack of sound, it was this warm presence wrapping around me. I couldn't quite say where I was. It felt like I wasn't anywhere familiar. I floated in a limitless expanse with no sense of direction. The surrounding darkness felt gentle, almost alive, rather than frightening. I had lost all awareness of my physical body. There was no ache, no discomfort. It was just pure awareness, drifting without limits. At that moment, I understood I had crossed over. Oddly, that realization didn't frighten me. Instead, a profound sense of tranquility washed over me, one I'd never encountered before. Then something shifted. It was like I was drawn towards something, gliding as though being gently tugged along an invisible thread. The dark space around me started to melt away, revealing a soft light. And that's when I spotted them. 6 figures in the distance, 5 men and a woman, radiating their own gentle glow. They didn't need to speak. A shared understanding flowed between us without words, a kind of communication that resonated from one soul to another. The woman, who appeared to be the leader, stepped closer to me. Her beauty wasn't about flawless features. It came from the overwhelming peace and love she exuded. She smiled at me, and in that smile I felt an invitation to something beyond comprehension. I sensed a profound love, an inexplicable warmth that enveloped me without a single word being spoken. It felt like a moment frozen in time was presented with a choice. I could either join them in a place of everlasting serenity or return to my life on earth. Oh, what a dilemma! The idea of leaving behind all my fears and troubles was incredibly tempting. Who wouldn't want to escape the chaos of everyday life? Yet just when I thought I was ready to step into that beautiful peace, a thought sparked in my mind like a bolt of lightning. Chloe, my sweet little Chloe, with her sparkling eyes and abundant laughter, came to me. And Ethan, with his unwavering love and kindness, also crossed my mind. My heart, if I could still call it that, sank at the thought of everything I had yet to accomplish. I yearned to create more memories with my family, to love and be loved. With clarity washing over me, I knew I wasn't prepared to depart just yet. There was still so much more I wanted to give, so many connections I needed to nurture. I relayed my decision to the kindly figure I would later find out was named Serafina. She gave me a smile that combined understanding with a sense of pride. Yes, it definitely felt like she was proud of my choice, as though it was exactly what she had expected. Serafina nodded and motioned for me to follow her back, but before we left, she imparted one last essential message. "The path ahead won't be smooth," she said. "You'll encounter challenges and moments of doubt, but within you lies a purpose. The experiences you've had here between these realms will fortify you in tough times." With that, I suddenly felt an intense pull, like I was being drawn back to my body. The light around me grew brighter, nearly blinding, and returning felt akin to plunging into frigid water after basking in the sun. The moment I came back, pain overwhelmed me, a sharp, jabbing sensation coursing through every fiber of my being. It felt as if each cell protested the jarring shift back to reality. Slowly, I pried my eyes open, waited as though they'd been sealed for ages. The glaring light of the hospital room pierced my senses and took a moment to adjust. Shapes around me blurred, but gradually they came into focus. The first clear image I caught was Ethan's face. His eyes were red and puffy, unmistakable signs of sleepless nights and tears, yet on his lips lingered a mix of relief and disbelief. By his side, holding onto his hand tight, was Chloe. Her wide eyes sparkled, radiating the promise of love and hope that awaited me back on Earth. As I slowly came back to my senses, a mix of fear and curiosity enveloped me. I wanted to call out to the familiar faces around me, but my throat was parched, and the effort only resulted in a raspy whisper. Ethan hovered close, tears streaming down his cheeks as he leaned over me. "Lillian," he murmured, his voice tinged with raw emotion. "You're back." I longed to embrace them, to convey how much I loved them and that everything was all right now, but my body felt heavy, uncooperative. I managed to lift my hand just a little, and Ethan promptly intertwined his fingers with mine, offering comfort in that simple gesture. It was only then I became aware of the bustle around us. Nurses and doctors flitted about, adjusting machines and checking monitors. Fragmented pieces of their conversations reached my ears. Stable vitals, normal brain activity, miraculous recovery. Suddenly, a doctor approached me, her face a strange blend of professionalism and surprise. "Mrs. Carter," she said gently, "you really gave us a scare. Your heart stopped for nearly 4 minutes. Honestly, we weren't sure you'd pull through." 4 minutes felt absurd. The ordeal I had just experienced felt like an eternity. How could anything that profound happen in such a brief span? In the days that followed, I slowly regained my strength. With each passing day, more details about my condition emerged. I had experienced a massive cerebral thrombosis. My heart had failed on the way to the hospital and again in the ER, where the doctors battled to revive me. There were moments they believed I was lost. While my body healed, my mind was a storm of thoughts. The memories of that surreal experience, the light, the entities I had encountered, were so vivid yet made me question reality. Had it truly happened, or was it merely a figment of my oxygen-starved brain? Returning to the world was an emotional whirlwind. I felt immense gratitude to be alive, to once again hug Chloe and Ethan. Each moment shared with them felt incredibly precious. Yet, amidst the joy, I sensed a shift within myself, as if a piece of me had been left behind in that other realm, or that I had brought something back with me. Life in the hospital was relentless. I endured exams, tests, and meetings with specialists. Everyone seemed fascinated by my survival. Terms like unique case and miraculous recovery echoed in the hallways, like whispers of disbelief mixed with reverence. How do you explain something so strange? I mean, how do you talk about concepts like light, peace, and energy beings without feeling like you might be viewed as a bit unhinged? Thankfully, Ethan was there the whole time. He held my hand during those nerve-wracking exams, and on the restless nights when sleep was elusive, he offered comfort. When I finally started to share my experiences, he didn't question me or show any skepticism. He just listened, his eyes filled with that familiar mix of love and concern. Then there was Chloe, my darling Chloe. Her reaction was something only a child could muster. She seemed to take it all in stride, asking me about the shining place with the same curiosity she'd show when talking about a fun day at the park. That innocence was a balm for my troubled soul. Yet, not everything was so simple. As my body healed, I found myself facing unexpected hurdles. The most frightening of these? The visions. At first, they were just fleeting images, too quick for me to grasp. But soon they became more distinct and frequent. I would see shadows lurking in the corners of rooms, dark shapes that seemed to study me. Naturally, I thought it must be a side effect of the meds, or perhaps the residue of trauma still lingering in my mind. Yet these visions didn't fade, even as the doses were lowered. One night, I had a nightmare so vivid that it jolted me awake, screaming. I dreamt I was being pulled back into darkness, away from my family. Ethan rushed to me, enveloping me in a tight embrace, whispering soothing words, but I could see the fear etched on his face. It wasn't just my visions that scared him, it was what they were doing to me. This started a cycle of dread around sleep. I would lie awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with what was happening inside my head. During the day, I did my best to maintain a facade of normalcy, especially for Chloe's sake. But internally I was in turmoil. Questions plagued me. Had I truly experienced that profound peace and love, or was it just a figment of a dying brain? And if it was real, then what was happening to me now? I felt suspended between two realms, belonging fully to neither. In search of answers, I reached out for help. I consulted psychologists, psychiatrists, and even a local priest. Everyone offered a different perspective. Some suggested post-traumatic stress. Others talked about hallucinations stemming from a lack of oxygen. The priest delved into discussions of spiritual battles and the importance of faith. Yet none of their explanations felt fully satisfying. None of them seemed to encompass the depth of what I was experiencing. As I settled into my thoughts, I couldn't shake the profound reality of my past experiences. A wave of peace and love had washed over me before, but now I was lost in fear and uncertainty. It all reminded me of a warning from a wise friend named Serafina. She had told me that the journey back wouldn't be a smooth one, filled with obstacles and trials. Back then, her words didn't resonate as much, but as I found myself grappling with doubt, they echoed loudly in my mind. It dawned on me that the only one putting me to the test was, in fact, myself. My rational thoughts clashed with the truths my heart held onto, creating an internal tug-of-war. In a moment of clarity amid the chaos, I realized that I couldn't go on like this. Something had to give. I needed to weave the threads of my extraordinary experience into the fabric of my everyday life and find a way to balance both worlds that were now part of me. With that newfound determination, I set out to discover a fresh perspective on what I was facing. To be honest, I wasn't sure what the journey would look like or where it might lead. But for the first time since my return, I felt a glimmer of hope. I was convinced that I could navigate through this, despite the challenges ahead. Eager to grasp a deeper understanding of my situation, I embarked on a quest for answers. Ignoring the urge to downplay my experiences any longer, I decided it was time to confront them head-on. My first move? A trip to the local library. I spent countless hours buried in books about near-death experiences, paranormal matters, and spirituality. It was fascinating to read stories that mirrored my own, people discussing tunnels of light, spiritual encounters, and overwhelming feelings of tranquility. Knowing that others had traversed similar paths brought me comfort. Still, I realized that reading could only take me so far. What I truly needed was to connect with someone who genuinely understood what I was going through. That's when I stumbled upon a support group specifically for those who had faced near-death experiences. Walking into that first meeting was overwhelming. Surrounded by strangers in a circle, each person shared their story. I was hit by a whirlwind of emotions. It was a relief to finally be with others who wouldn't dismiss my experiences as delusions. At the same time, my heart sank hearing about the struggles many had confronting daily life afterward. Yet amid all this, I felt a growing sense of purpose, as if each narrative pieced together a larger puzzle I was meant to solve. In Denver, Colorado, I found myself connecting with a remarkable woman named Lillian Carter. A few years my senior, she had her own near-death experience about 10 years ago, and soon became something of a guide for me. One day, after a particularly intense meeting with the group, Lillian shared some wisdom that resonated deeply. What you've gone through is a gift, but like any powerful gift, it takes time to master. Those words lingered in my mind. Instead of viewing my experience as a burden, I began to see it as a chance for growth and a deeper understanding of both life and myself. Encouraged by Lillian and the supportive group, I decided to dive into meditation and mindfulness. Oh boy, it wasn't easy at first. Sitting in silence with my racing thoughts felt daunting, especially as the unsettling visions would occasionally invade my mind. Yet, as days passed, I gradually discovered pockets of tranquility in the chaos. During my meditation sessions, flashes of the incredible peace I'd once encountered during my near-death experience would resurface, each brief moment bringing me closer to that ethereal world. Ethan, bless him, was my rock through this all. Even though he couldn't fully grasp my struggles, he stepped up in every way possible. He took care of Chloe while I attended group meetings, never complained about the countless hours I spent lost in books or meditations, and was always ready with an embrace during tough times. One morning over breakfast, Chloe caught me off guard with a question. "Mommy, are you going back to the bright place?" My heart tightened at the thought. How could I explain such a complex experience to her little mind? I gathered her in my arms and reassured her, "No, sweetheart, Mommy's here for good, but that place taught me something really special." Her eyes lit up with curiosity. It showed me that love is the most powerful force there is, which is why I returned. My love for you and Daddy shines brighter than any light. Chloe beamed at me, and in that moment, I felt a surge of clarity. I was indeed on the right path. As the months rolled by, I began to notice gentle shifts within myself. The frightening visions became less frequent, replaced with unexpected insights and moments of clarity that just seemed to arrive out of the blue. It was almost like I was tuning into a different frequency, receiving messages from an unseen source. I found myself trusting these insights more and gradually following my intuition in a way I hadn't before. Leaving behind my corporate job in Denver was a monumental shift for me, one I never thought I'd consider. It wasn't an easy choice, but something deep inside convinced me it was necessary. So when I sat down to tell Ethan about my decision, I braced myself for a tough conversation. We'd be sacrificing a chunk of our income after all. But what happened next caught me completely off guard. He grinned and said, "Finally, you're looking more like yourself than you have in ages." That moment opened my eyes to a profound truth. My journey was impacting more than just me. It was touching everyone around me. Perhaps the changes I was making were just what our family needed. As I stepped into this fresh chapter, one thing became abundantly clear. My near-death encounter wasn't an ending. It was merely the beginning of a new narrative. A story still unfolding, but one that promised to be richer and more meaningful than I had ever envisioned. During this voyage of self-exploration, I started to notice insights that reached beyond my own experiences. It felt like a curtain had lifted, revealing a new perspective on the world. One evening, while deep in meditation, I was struck by a vision that took my breath away. I found myself gazing at Earth from space. It was an awe-inspiring view of blues and greens floating in the vast cosmos. But then the scene morphed. I saw streams of energy surrounding the planet, some dark and chaotic, while others glowed with light and tranquility. In that moment, it hit me. These energies represented the collective emotions of humanity. The dark spots signified fear, anger, and strife, while the bright areas embodied love, hope, and compassion. Surprisingly, those luminous regions seemed to be growing, gradually pushing back the shadows. Emerging from that meditation session, I was trembling, not out of fear, but from a profound emotion that felt new and unexplainable. It was like I had glimpsed something far greater than myself, something beyond the daily grind. In the days that followed, visions continued to come my way. Some were frightening, showcasing natural disasters and conflict. Others filled me with hope, showing communities uniting, groundbreaking scientific achievements, and heartwarming acts of love that brought tears to my eyes. At first I was puzzled. Were these glimpses into what was to come, or were they reflections of my inner fears and aspirations? To sort through it all, I turned to Chloe, my mentor from the NDE support group, and shared my thoughts and confusions. After listening intently, she finally turned to me and said, "Lillian, what you're going through is actually a gift. But you know, every gift comes with its own set of responsibilities. These visions you have, they're not something to fear or run away from. Instead, they're meant to guide you, to show you where your focus and energy are most needed." Those words hit home for me. I started to see my near-death experience in a whole new light. It wasn't just a personal event. It was part of something much larger. I realized I had caught a glimpse of what lies beyond, not just for my own benefit, but so I could utilize this insight for a greater purpose. That's when it struck me. I had nearly forgotten about the urgency that the beings of light had communicated to me, particularly Seraphina. It wasn't directly stated, but there was this strong feeling that critical times were on the horizon for humanity. With that thought, everything began to make sense. My visions and this heightened sensitivity I was experiencing were all signs of a vital mission. I hadn't been brought back just to live my life. I felt destined to assist in some way during the impending transition. Not long after, one evening while Ethan and I were unwinding after Chloe had gone to sleep, I decided to lay it all out for him. I half expected him to think I was losing my mind, but to my surprise, he simply squeezed my hand and said, "I've always believed you had something special within you, Lillian. If this is your path, I'm right here beside you." His support was just what I needed to muster the courage to move forward. I started jotting down my thoughts and experiences. Writing wasn't about sharing it with the world just yet. I needed to clarify my own mind, and perhaps, one day, pass on whatever wisdom I stumbled upon. The more I wrote, the more clear patterns began to surface. It dawned on me that my visions weren't random. They pointed to a future where humanity would encounter significant challenges alongside new opportunities for growth. As I continued to reflect and meditate on what I saw, I recognized that these were not mere fragments of a possible future. A cohesive narrative was forming from the images and sensations, and then a date kept surfacing repeatedly, October 9th, 2024. It felt pivotal, a watershed moment etched in the timeline of human history. From that point, I envisioned events unfolding like ripples in a still pond after a stone is tossed in. I could see climate change worsening, marked by fiercer storms, prolonged droughts, and rising sea levels, escalating at an alarming rate. Yet amid all this turmoil, I also witnessed communities uniting in ways that were truly inspiring, people banding together to create urban gardens and tackle these pressing issues. In Denver, Colorado, Lillian Carter found herself at a crossroads. While the world around her bristled with tensions and escalating conflicts, she also witnessed the rise of grassroots movements advocating for peace. Ordinary individuals were stepping forward, fervently embracing love and understanding, even when faced with adversity. One day, while walking in nature with Chloe, an unexpected insight struck her. They were beside a gently flowing stream, and as they listened to the soothing sounds of water, Chloe posed a thoughtful question. "Mommy," she asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity, "do you think the trees can sense when a storm is on its way?" Lillian gazed at her daughter, touched by the depth of her observation. "Absolutely, sweetheart. Trees possess their own kind of wisdom." Chloe's reflection continued. "So, they can prepare themselves, and maybe help other animals get ready too." At that moment, it all clicked for Lillian. Just like those trees, she had the ability to feel the looming turmoil in the air. It wasn't her job to stop the storm, which seemed unattainable. She realized instead that she had a role to play in helping others prepare for it. Earlier, she had experienced powerful visions of a collective awakening. It was as though humanity was slowly gaining a new perspective on life, reconnecting with nature and the cosmos. Lillian felt that this transformation was somehow tied to the ancient prophecies she had delved into, from Nostradamus to the Mayan insights. They all seemed to foreshadow this significant shift, yet she understood the future was flexible, not predetermined. During meetings with her near-death experience support group, she shared her insights, only to find that she wasn't alone. Ethan, another member, had also been receiving vivid messages about major changes edging closer in the mid-2020s. "It's like we have a purpose," he remarked one day. "Those of us who glimpsed the beyond are being called to contribute." His words stirred something deep within Lillian, clarifying her sense of purpose in this turbulent time, if only in small ways, by guiding others as they navigated the coming changes. I found myself reflecting on how to prepare for what lay ahead, while also helping others get ready. It dawned on me that I didn't need to make a fuss or try to convince anyone with dramatic forecasts. The real task was simpler: embody the principles I had learned and inspire those around me to tap into their own wisdom and intuition, guiding them to prepare for the inevitable changes. That evening, I returned home feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Sure, the road ahead was likely to be bumpy, filled with its share of doubts and fears. But I realized I was far from alone. My family, friends from the support group, and a deeper connection to something beyond myself were all there for me. As I cooked dinner, I glanced over at Ethan helping Chloe with her homework, and an overwhelming sense of gratitude enveloped me. Whatever the future held, I appreciated being right here, in this moment. The ticking clock on the wall reminded me that October 9th, 2024 was approaching, yet rather than panic, I felt a serene anticipation. We were on the brink of something significant, something transformative. Somehow, I had been selected to play a part in it, even if I didn't fully grasp why. While serving dinner, I couldn't help but smile at my family. "Hey, what do you all think about planning a special trip for the fall of 2024? I threw the idea out there casually. Ethan looked at me, curiosity lighting up his expression, sensing there was more behind my words than just a casual suggestion. Meanwhile, Chloe erupted with enthusiasm. "Can we go camping or see the leaves turn in the mountains? I chuckled, my heart swelling with love. Absolutely. We'll make it amazing. Amid laughter and hopeful plans for what was to come, we began our own preparations in subtle ways. In the years leading up to that date, my focus shifted toward practical readiness as well as personal growth. As October 9, 2024 drew nearer, I felt an urgency, not just to get my life sorted, but also to guide others in preparing for the shifts I sensed were on the horizon. I started with my own family. Ethan and I engaged in deep discussions about resilience, the necessity of cultivating a supportive community, and living sustainably. I was careful not to share my visions outright. I didn't want to alarm him or make him think I was losing touch with reality. Gradually, though, I began to weave those ideas into our conversations. In the midst of preparing for whatever the future may hold, I took to gardening in our backyard. It was a journey into permaculture and urban farming that I began with my daughter, Chloe. Seeing her small hands eagerly planting seeds and nurturing the seedlings brought me immense joy. Watching her connect with the earth, grasping the cycles of nature, filled me with a sense of optimism about what's to come. At the same time, I realized how important it was to engage with our neighbors. I decided to organize a skills exchange group where community members could share knowledge on various topics, like repairing clothes, making soap, and preserving food. It became a great way to strengthen community ties and foster resilience among us all. In my professional life, I yearned for something with deeper meaning. I shifted my marketing efforts toward local small businesses and nonprofits, assisting them in better reaching the community. This not only bolstered the local economy, but also established vital support networks for the future. On a personal level, I was diving deeper into my spiritual journey. Meditation became a daily habit, along with practicing gratitude. I explored various spiritual traditions, discovering shared wisdom that broadened my understanding of my own experiences. This journey prompted me to think of practical ways to integrate these insights into my daily life. Visions started coming to me frequently, sometimes in dreams, other times during meditation. Not all were easy to process. I witnessed calamities and human suffering. Yet amidst these darker images, there were also moments of profound resilience, kindness, and compassion that truly moved me. I learned to approach these visions lightly, recognizing they were merely potential scenarios rather than absolute certainties. One night, I experienced a particularly striking dream. I was standing in an expansive field, surrounded by a crowd beneath a tumultuous sky. Suddenly, a flash of lightning lit up the scene, and I could see every individual around me with perfect clarity. Each person had their own unique story, filled with fears and dreams, yet they were all connected by invisible threads of light. Upon waking, I felt a deep understanding wash over me. Regardless of what challenges lay ahead, we would confront them together. It was our connections and the support we could offer each other that would carry us through. This powerful realization inspired me to openly share my experiences and insights with others, not in a fearful way, but to foster understanding and unity. One afternoon, while I relaxed in our garden, watching Chloe and Ethan play nearby, everything suddenly felt clear. I found myself realizing that my true purpose was already unfolding, regardless of what would happen on October 9th, 2024. It wasn't about trying to foresee or manipulate the future. It was all about how I was cherishing each moment, nurturing my connections, and spreading love. As the new year approached, I experienced a whirlwind of feelings. Sure, there was a bit of anxiety, but I also felt a gentle sense of peace and acceptance. I had done what I could to prepare, not just for myself, but to assist others too. Now it was time to trust the process, to believe that whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd tackle them together. In my journey, I found that many people were open to exploring their own spiritual paths. Some even shared their own mystical experiences or feelings about upcoming changes. Others, however, were skeptics, some even dismissive of the notion that something important was on the horizon. I learned pretty quickly that engaging in arguments wasn't productive. Instead, I concentrated on living my truth, allowing my actions to resonate louder than words. As I reflected on everything, I understood that the changes and transformations I sought were rooted in my daily life, how I engaged with the world and the love I shared with those around me. The future might have felt unpredictable, but I embraced that ambiguity. That was the true gift my near-death experience had imparted. The realization that living with love, compassion, and intention in the present moment is what really matters.